Or laugh, George.
All right, I'll do it. Hi, welcome to the virtual brown bag. I think this is the first time we're meeting 2017.
Yeah.
So the way this works, this is a general open forum for any developers to kind of Q&A or show and tell, ask questions, show what they're doing, and if not, we kind of come up with something. A reminder is not to share anything that needs to be stay proprietary, as we do stream this live to YouTube. And that's about it. So how is everyone's New Year?
Uh, Good. Yeah, I feel like congratulations are in order, George.
Oh yeah,
I
thank you.
love the GIF that you posted. That like one of these. It was like a picture of a gift, a picture of a BMW with like a trunk of a BMW.
Yep, and my wife and said one of these things has a baby in it. um, yep. Thank you. That's a whiles down the line, thankfully.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a long time.
yeah. What is good? So I guess just really quickly, I don't know. I know you have something you want to share, Seth. I don't know if anyone has any news that they want to talk about. I want to bring up. I've been talking to the organizers of jazzcon.tech, which is that exact website, jazzcon.tech. It's a conference. It's a sizable web conference being put on in New Orleans in I want to say March. I mean, they seem pretty cool. They weren't really getting in touch with the like New Orleans community at all, even though they were doing it here. And then I found out I hassled them online. A couple other people did too, and they're actually doing pretty good job reaching out now. But they're the same guys that run DevNexus, which I'm speaking at next month, and apparently is a pretty cool conference. So if anyone's looking for excuses to come to New Orleans, do that. Or if you want to go to the conference, I believe they're going to have volunteer tickets, or you can just buy a ticket. Yeah, that's the one. Um, cool. So that's one thing. Uh, I don't have any other like tech updates really. The one thing I'll say is I got as a gift one of the 3D printing pens, and they're so dumb but so much fun.
What does that even mean? Like
They're like 20. They're like $20 to $40. Here.
yeah, it's a meaning. It's a meaning. I
Yeah.
never knew what that means.
Here. 3D. I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like if I go here. So this is the one. No.
Hey.
This is the one that I have. Which one is a Soyan? So it's like $40. Yeah. So basically, you there's this like plastic filament that you feed into it through there, and it's basically a hot glue gun with a little motor in it. But you're just drawing these things, and you kind of build them up and build them up and build them up, and kind of then put them together as like this. So yeah, like you make a little bench. I've been making like little monsters with them. I actually used them for a couple like things already. I've run through all the filament and like another almost 400 foot bag of filament. Like I just went on a break to a bachelor party. I just brought this with me, and people were playing. People were playing with it the entire time. You make these things, and then it kind of quick dries into like really into fairly firm, brittle but firm plastic. And it's not really that brittle, honestly. So like you could kind of put together little pieces of stuff really quickly. It's really neat. Um, so yeah, and yeah, so like if you want to play with it, so this one's $40. I remember I saw like there was one on here that was $20. That was yeah, like this is clearly the same exact thing, just without the branding. 100% the same exact thing. So yeah, I mean it's fun. Yeah, you build stuff like that. Yeah, this is even like the designs that it comes with. I made some like you can make like funky glasses frames and stuff like that. It's just like really fun. You don't have to like put a ton of brain power into, and you slowly get better at it. Yeah, that's it. I recommend getting one to play with. That's all the tech stuff that I have.
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm coding Elixir and doing my
Yeah,
thing. There's
yeah.
nothing. I mean, sure, there's news inside there, but moving the app to an Umbrella app and having good times with that.
Yeah.
But
I-
nothing major.
I have a couple of rants about JavaScript modules, but Seth, why don't you show us some actual stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share.
Seth said he has cool stuff. Let's see it in action, bro.
Okay, screen share. Choose the screen. It's not letting me choose a specific screen. It just has one screen on your entire screen.
What?
It should have multiple screens, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should be able to pick different things.
Yeah, because it'll just show my application window, which isn't exactly what that's actually not what I want. Okay, let me, I'm gonna hang up and.
Okay. Well, while he's talking there, I can set up a discourse forum for another group. First time for me to do that. That wasn't that bad. It was actually kind of cool. It's hosted on DigitalOcean, and the guides were pretty clear. I'm not an ops genius, but I could figure it out.
So this is discourse like for chat?
For like
Wait.
forums, right? That's what this is it discourse? Yeah, it's discourse.
Wait, there's Discord. I always get it confused. So wait. There's discourse, Discord, and discuss.
It's
And
not Discord with
Discord is the one that was the
video game chat.
Yeah, that. What's
It's-
discourse?
It's isn't
Oh,
it
okay. Oh, yeah.
the forum.
This is
the Atwood stuff?
yeah,
right?
Atwood's new forum software. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty easy set up. All I had to do is pay for hosting, which is pretty good. I guess that would be my disappointment with it, is that I sort of didn't even want to manage that. Like, I wanted to just be like, hey, I'll pay for a hosted solution. But their hosted solution prices, based on what I saw, were like way out of my budget.
Well,
Which just makes sense. They don't want to deal with small people. They like
are they still in beta technically, or are they?
no, like let's see the trial, see if it has a
And
buy.
it isn't really. They don't have a fully open source version. How about that?
It's fully open source.
Oh, it is, but this is
Yeah.
for hosting.
Right.
Okay.
So the solution here, like, I just wanted to be like, hey, host it, that's fine. I'll pay whatever, $10, $15 or $20 a month maybe, and just see, because it's still in a trial base to see, hey, is this going to even work for us? But yeah, it was like $100 a month, and I was like, no. So really, it's a good price, because they don't want to deal with anyone who looks at $100 a month and goes, no, I don't want to pay that.
Right.
Meanwhile, you could pay $100 and they would just install in the cloud for you. And I was like, well, I can do that. Like, I'll figure that out. And I did. They have a really good guide, and it was just step by step do these things. Also part of that is set up mail with the domain, and I don't think and most of the time I just use like Mailgun just to forward it, but this is actually like setting up Mailgun specifically for a domain, and that was pretty good. So if you're looking for a form software, or if you want an email for a domain, pretty easy. I think both were. I spent like maybe an hour on both, and it took longer for the DNS record to update than than for me to do the work. Anyway, that's my little adventures and things.
So, you didn't get it up and running, did you?
Oh, I did get it up and running. Yeah,
How is it?
it's good so far.
I guess report back on how it is, because I am really interested in. Like, I feel like the forum software in general has kind of gone out of vogue, which is a real shame, because like I feel like Slack is like throttling that market, and Slack is not really the best way of communicating for everything. It's not just like Slack or video chat. Like, there is absolutely a place for forums, and I think part of it has been that there hasn't been a great offering.
Yeah, I would say it is a good offering, and what I like about it, the same reason I like about Ghost, is that it's built on technologies that I know. So even though I'm just like a turnkey and start an engine, when it's starting an engine and seeing the log, it's referencing things I understand. And so that's good. And so far, the admin interface has been great. No complaints there. Just mostly right now is will we get people to use our form for what we need to do. And this is not the virtual brown bag. This is another group. It's pretty good stuff.
I do wonder if like setting up a forum for virtual brown bag might not be a bad choice, because people think we don't quite have that critical mass of like people are always there to answer questions.
Yeah.
But with a forum, I don't know. I have no idea. No one is asking questions anyway.
I have a question, which is Seth. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm presenting on native base.
Cool.
I feel like you guys wanted something a little more formal and presenty. I think it's good for all of you to do that occasionally. And for me, I can count on one finger the amount of presentations I've done like this in the past. So one. So this is good. This is I feel like a safe space to try out new things. And I guess that's what virtual brown bag is supposed to be. Okay, so native base. This is a trigger warning. I will be using JSX in this. So you might, if you have small children who you don't want, you might want to cover
the separation of JavaScript and HTML.
Yeah, this is the default. So and all the documentation is using JSX. I've been fooling around with React Native for the last few months. And one of the things coming from a web guy that is I found to be a difficult transition is the styling. Now, if you have experience doing Android development, you already understand this. I used to call it a UI model. Basically the Android mobile or iOS mobile equivalent of HTML and CSS. But while Facebook does an admirable job of trying to make it sort of easy to learn from like a web perspective, you miss a lot of things, including like the tooling. And you can spend so much. I mean, even with hot module reloading, I found issues with hot module reloading. Relying on it. So you can position things, but it's so much more difficult than, using Chrome dev tools. It's not nearly as elegant. It's actually really painful. I have a lot of respect for people who I guess there probably are designers who just specialize in like mobile styling, and it's really, really hard job. So why component library? This relates to my next point about like the purpose of native base, which is that one of the problems with React Native, or one of the issues that you encounter, is it's cross-platform-ish. I haven't found a better way so far using it, like doing React Native vanilla, than just keeping a list of components that it says aren't 100% compatible between iOS and Android. So there are certain props that you can only use in iOS that you can't use in Android. Mm-hmm. For the most part, React Native has done a lot.
What happens if you do use those props? They don't do anything, or
they don't do anything, or they break loudly. Or at first, things just don't show up. You're like, why is this modal? It's like, oh, there is no. It won't complain because it doesn't know that I'm. Mm-hmm. It won't complain because you're importing it from the library, so it's not like you import modal from React Native Android. You just React Native, so you then have to look at the documentation and be like, oh yeah, this really, really important prop or this really, really important styling thing, I can only use it on iOS, which means, which basically means that you double duty. So there's all kinds of demos about, And I'll show you guys a pretty cool thing.
So I mean, there are polyfills and stuff like that for those features, right?
Yeah, there are polyfills for sure. So for the most part, I am imagining that a lot of people, probably larger teams too, use just polyfill it up and have basically a buffet of different like third-party components that are supposed to be cross-platform, and that's actually a really cool strength. React is a cool library, and it has always said that this is a component architecture, it's component based, but I think for the most part, most people aren't actually using a ton of people are using wrappers and stuff like that, but there's not I was able to build good looking React apps just, without using any third-party components. There are material design component libraries like that for React on the web, but because of how hard it is to style things in a native environment, how annoying it is and how like really primitive it feels like, it makes so much more sense. And so I think that you actually start realizing, like it puts the imperative to actually use component-based architecture in a way where you're able to grab. It encourages you to grab things from different places in a way that, like in React vanilla, I would just build it myself. I'd be like, actually, this styling thing is actually really difficult, or this whatever GUI thing, or like you can't, stepping through animations is really, really hard, in a native environment. And so it actually is nice, and I imagine that a lot of people who build mobile apps are using a bunch of third-party components. And so in your example here, you can actually see this is the dream. I think this is the native base example. Does it have an examples folder? No, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, I think this is it. So notice how it says index. This is index.ios set. Okay, whoops, sorry. This was kind of improvising. Well, anyways, I'll describe it to you. So basically, at the end of the day, you can just do an import star at index.ios from your Android version, and literally your entire app so the only thing that you have to do to deploy and because in React Native, there's like a deploy hook that looks for index.android.js and then like builds the APK file. If you're doing the Android version, if you've already built the iOS version, you just do a straight import and you are done. And that's awesome. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of like husbanding if you're doing vanilla husbanding. So people have actually created like Venn diagrams and stuff in order to keep track of what components will work and what components need to be modified and what props you're allowed to use and things like that, to actually have that experience of just importing all of the code from your iOS app and it working for Android right out of the box. Okay, so you can see it right now. So it's got this, I've got this GIF, and here's the iOS card, and you can see how the styling has changed in this subtle way, but basically in iOS, it's gonna look like this, and in Android, it's gonna have that blue background.
What would happen if you ran for web?
That's a good question. I think that it would work perfectly. I've never used web, but I imagine that it probably has more. Like there's got to be some system of media queries that React Native does not have, or at least I haven't read about. But like for scaling it to web, but I'm imagining that there is like a media query system that's in the documentation for the people who need to transform their Android apps into web apps, but retain all that styling stuff.
Yeah.
It's React Native Web is interesting in that like you're not using. I don't know. Do you know about it? Are you using CSS and HTML, or like do you have control over that, or do you have to run your code through some build system? So you basically have to style it using like
in React Native.
Yeah.
I give you a lot of feedback. I don't know who's. I think Seth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you want to just toggle on and off your audio.
Oh yeah.
So from what I understand, it's generating like native code. So you're not using HTML and CSS. That wouldn't make sense actually. Instead, it's generating the components kind of directly, and that's kind of why I'm asking, because like okay, so there's a concept of a card which is present on both Android and iOS, happens to be, but like there's no such thing as a card concept on the web. So I was just wondering what they did for that. But I guess, yeah. You're muted now. Yeah.
You
Probably want to
get you a
unmute.
headset.
Yeah, I know. I need a headset.
Well, you usually just the echo thing is just you mute and unmute, and like I'm not hearing it now. It's not a persistent thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there's like a little hack.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm taking longer than I should.
No, that's fine.
Like,
Does it? I haven't done any React Native. I've only seen the two presentations.
oh, really?
Or whatever,
Okay,
so.
I'll show you some. Actually,
Can you do like gestures with it, like swiping and stuff? Can you handle those events?
Yes. And I'll show you that in the demo app in a second. I'm taking way too long with this slideshow. So why native base? Here's the first app I ever built. It took me like 4 hours to style this thing on top, right?
Okay.
Like seriously, like getting this OK button centered, and it's like it uses some sort of Flexbox ideas, right? And it's intuitive to someone who's using Flexbox, but Flexbox is on by default. So it's like it's sort of a leaky abstraction with Flexbox in that it's like you actually still have to, you can't just know Flexbox and do it. It uses like the terminology of Flexbox, but there's like some important differences for positioning. And then just like, just certain things like there's no box shadow prop. So what the cart does is, or what native base does is, it's like using some opacity stuff and like some tricks to create a box shadow effect. And that's like one of the really cool things about native base. Like there's a lot of, like if you want to get a certain effect, you would otherwise have to spend a lot of time Googling to figure out how to do it. So it's cross-platform. Styling native apps like styling the web way worse. So basically, I use it like rapid prototyping is awesome, and it actually is much more pleasant to work on an app that doesn't look horrible. And and also it has a material design library built in, so it's like, everyone likes the Google, or at least nobody complains too hard. It's like plausible deniability. It's like, hey, this is the minimum design, whatever. Super.
I hate it, but I know what you're saying. No one ever got fired for buying IBM, sort of thing.
Exactly. That's well said. Card. So here's my favorite components. Here's this. They're all variations on this card. I actually am a big fan of material design. Specifically, I use that metaphor a lot, like even in my web design. Not exactly using this, but you saw my wedding website. Let's see. So just creating this list that's centered with, and by the way, setting it up with these little icons is super easy. Like in the documentation, and like walks you through setting up vector icons, which does require like opening up Xcode. You're like, I'm so glad I'm not actually using Xcode on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's super ugly. Header and footer prop, like just this basic stuff. There's nothing in the documentation that's like, oh, here's this like basic like component scaffolding, and you can even see how it maps over here. So it's got the header, title prop, exactly how it looks, like how you would expect it to look, like centered, vertically centered, and all that good stuff. And of course, like it'll work perfectly if you use Android, if you use between iOS and Android.
So without this library,
Mhm.
React Native, are people like coding this stuff by hand or making their own
Yeah,
components or something?
they're using this thing called
I thought they
No,
had like native
yeah,
components or
those are
whatever.
standard components.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
native base is just is the bridge between some of those and
yeah, yeah.
So those are the native components. Is
Here's
just
an
native
example of
styling or
the
something?
documentation. It's like there's a picker iOS, but this was it doesn't give you. There's no pictures, right? Like at all. Um, I can take you through some of the native components, but there's no header component. There's no footer component. There's a handful of these little things that they're like, okay, everybody's using it. It uses this thing called a view, which is basically just like a tabula rasa for you to style. React Native. And it'll take you. So basically, here are your list of components. You have a nav modal, navigator, picker, and I don't mind React people for doing this. It's like you should give basically the minimum number of tools for people to use, and then let library creators like this pick it up. I would be kind of upset if they were super opinionated about like the design language, rather than just adding these little helpers. So they have like text input and stuff like this, but nothing like card. This is so this is a much lower level of
Okay, that makes sense.
and then this native base is a slightly higher level of styling that actually has opinions about stuff. Okay, and so it's easy to set up. You save it, and do you need native base? You do not. Okay, but if you are like a developer who doesn't have like a design team and just like wants to get something out the door, it's really awesome. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things. One, here's my app, by the way. I like have been working on it on and off for like 3 or 4 months. It's fun. It's just a little like CRUD app. I've got a picker going on. There you go. You can like save stuff, say graduation. There's no unfortunately, there's no auto suggest, and this is all native based stuff, right? So this is the footer, right? They have this sort of using icons inline, and there's like hundreds of they're using all these other libraries to get their icons. So, but basically, I don't have a problem with finding the icons I need. This like banner, the positioning, all this stuff is standard. And then I've got this header thing, and this, as you can see, it's like this is very standard iOS, but you can see how this could translate very easily to Android. I think it looks almost exactly the same. And we have the events view. Right now, this is very simple, right? And so you can theme it in a cool way. Basically, you create this theme. It's very Bootstrap-esque in that you create a theme file. You have your color variables. You just import that. I'm imagining that that's probably what most people do for more sophisticated web apps. I mean, or even just best practices is having a special file called like colors and getting your color palette. And it's great because unlike CSS, where you have to, because CSS is loaded synchronously, JavaScript modules are really perfect for being able to like import colors and stuff like that. So it's very easy. So right now I want to style this like events thing, this graduation in a year. So let's check out card. well, looks like it's already set and it's not showing up. Why? Okay, I'll show you what the inspector looks like, so I can give you an example of like. So normally you'd be like, oh, what's this style? What's going on here? Right now, this is the inspector. It's okay, but you can't modify anything.
Yeah.
You can't. It's giving you this box metaphor, but if you're using a wrapper component, it's not giving you much information. So it's not giving you the fact that it's not giving you the fact that it's a card. It's not giving you, I mean, so it's basically giving like the React component that it represents. And so you see border, bottom, whatever. And oh yeah, so if you want to actually theme it, you change it, and then you do content theme equals, and then I've up here imported my theme light.
Oh, it's got a live reload. That's nice.
Yeah, it does have that, and it has hot reloading, but hot reloading is kind of fidgety. And
Is that Nativebase that sets that up, or is that?
no, this is a React. This is actually this is using Webpack. This is a React Native thing. So they're basically using Webpack, and they're using Webpack for both iOS and Android, and have set up the whole hot reloading workflows like behind the scenes. So I would say setting up a React Native project, actually setting up an Android project is actually pretty tough. Like even on their ideal development environment, I've encountered issues every single time. But iOS is super easy, and it's like, oh, hot reloading actually works out of the box. Another problem with this is you notice how there's like no real way to actually, I think you can move this kind of, but you can't easily drag this. I haven't found out a way to actually, so it'll just decide which side to put it on, and often it's just covering up the thing that you're trying to style. So there's so many frustrating things with this inspector. And notice how after putting my theme light, this thing is orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically it, guys.
How does this compare with Inferno.js?
I don't know, other than Gant is telling me that, okay, so Inferno.js, from what was described to me, is basically the Rails equivalent of which I'm not exactly sure, but it must have, I'm assuming it has a lot of opinions about routing, and it might make like navigating a little bit easier.
Or like how to put together your application overall. Yeah.
Yeah. But from what I heard, they might be merging Nativebase and
nice.
JS to create like this really awesome, like super cross-platform like way of building.
Because this is mostly like a components library, right?
Yeah, this is a components library. And so right now, it doesn't, so this slide, unfortunately, it doesn't take care of animations. So like the slide stuff, I have to implement my own, like all the, like the modal stuff, like where it pops up, they have their own modal, but like the actual animation, you can use, Nativebase doesn't have anything like that. Nativebase really is a handful of styling. But if you look at the components, they're pretty cool, like the default component. So you see this is how it's going down, like platform.os equals iOS. So it's using this like, I mean, it's kind of like an environment variable. Actually, it is an environment variable. Basically, the platform that is React Native's way of telling you can import that in any component in React Native. And so like it's actually telling you like, oh, so this, if it's iOS, white, if not blue, right? So you can really fine tune it, and it's using getters and setters. Or what are these? Are these getters and setters?
Yeah, those are getters.
Okay, I was
well,
like,
it's not getters and setters.
Prototype.
Getters. Those are getter properties. Yeah.
Getter properties.
Yeah.
Okay.
I personally do not know why you would use that over, just a function, but if there's no setter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I like to see someone use this feature because I've never used a getter in.
It's a fine feature, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Especially for stuff like that, where now the syntax means that you have to use a multi-line thing, and it's just, well, that could really be a lambda.
Yeah, that's true. Compose of encapsulation.
No, well, I mean, like that's what people say. It's encapsulation, but no, it doesn't give you anything over a function. It doesn't.
Do you have any other questions about this? I'm kind of running out of things.
I don't know. Well, actually, can we get through like from the top level down? So what's like the highest level in your application? Like the one where it's like the main screen. And can you navigate to the main screen at the same time?
The main screen, the highest. Okay, so I can take you through the tree if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, so index. So you have my containers. This is you're familiar with this design pattern where you break things out into container components.
Okay.
Yeah, React.
So
Redux, I mean.
Yeah, that's a Redux thing. Where basically the idea is you never want any. You can set it up so in a way where you never see any styling, and so you can use like this.props.children and all kinds of things. So basically, you basically clean up your like the business logic in your containers, so it looks as this is what it does as much as possible. I don't think it's like necessary, honestly. Like I think you can go crazy with it, and as you can see, I didn't like follow it here because in an ideal world you would actually just say like this would be like one big component, so it's not technically a container component. I don't think it's super necessary. In fact, it could, but I think it's kind of a good guideline to have. So this drawer, this whole thing is what's called a drawer. And this is not a React Native. This is like a third-party component. But they used it in their example. So it's basically like a native-based kind of recommended component that's not included in native-based.
So where's the code that pulls that? Where's the markup for that drawer? That's it, drawer container?
Yeah, the markup for drawer container is...
Well, that places the drawer container. This is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically, and so hold on.
So it's this thing. This is the drawer container.
So there's your icon right.
Yeah.
So that button icon right, that's the search. Oh, sorry, that's the add person.
Add friend, and you can see how literally it's just a visibility toggle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So basically, I'm using Redux, and this is something that Dan has talked about. Like you can use Redux for like it's a really good use case for like animation logic. Like, is it visible or is it invisible? Or like a loading screen. And so I have like a reducer that just deals with the visibility of these things, and it's super easy because there's also times when, like, from another part of my application, I actually want to make it visible. Like, let's say I edited something somewhere else, and it's like, oh, I need to actually call this action. Well, it's like I already have it set up in that way, so so I don't have to worry like about kind of trying to inherit some prop through a tree.
Okay. So yeah. So then when you do, so then icon right is actually positioning information, right?
And by the way, this is a helper from native base. So like this is a prop that just moves things to the right. So you don't have to add a style. And you can, by the way, add a style prop.
But you're saying that it's essentially Flexbox, right? So basically what we've got is header is a Flexbox, and inside of it, it's got one button, then that friend's title, and another button in their position left to right. Is that correct?
Yes. And under the scenes, like, I know that you like to look maybe behind. We can actually look at the module. Hopefully I haven't hidden the dist native base. the button module, and you'll be able to see like that there's actually a decent amount more going on. Oh man, it's here we are. So you can see like this is the native base button.
Oh, and I wonder what it's doing.
So basically, it's just like so. If I add success over here, we were in. That's not it. We were in drawer container. I just do like success. Yeah, I don't know.
What's it supposed to do? Well,
like it would color it. It would.
Oh.
It would like it. It would color. It would basically grab my styles from here, and it's using some default styles.
Yeah.
But if I add content, it would grab my styles from there and like color it orange or color it.
Well, let's go look at that button again. I'm just curious what its render method looks like. So it's where's its render method? So we got to get it. Let's render children with the render. Okay, so it's composed in terms of itself, right? So it's got it tags everything with touchable opacity, whatever that does, and then calls render children. So scroll up a bit for that. That's render children above it. So then basically, yeah, that's it. You were already there. So basically it seems like, okay, so if it's tagged as a string, it's just using the text element, whatever that does. Otherwise, react a clone element. Oh God, I always forget what clone element does. It's like very useful, but I haven't had to use it in a long time. So, okay, it's basically recloning all those elements and outputting them. Okay. But giving them new properties. Yes. And otherwise, if it's like an array, oh God, it's going to do a bunch of stuff. And it essentially doesn't. But yeah, there's the icon right thing, huh? So if it's icon right, then it's going to be, and then you get all those you get some if checks. That's interesting. So you have both the magnifying glass and the you have them both tagged as icon right.
It's well, okay. So I basically had this bug where I couldn't find a way to actually so if I remove this magnifying glass, switch to the left-hand side, and I couldn't figure out. I want this only on the right-hand side, and I want nothing on the left, right?
So you don't want the magnifying glass there.
Yeah, I would.
Well, are you sure it's not icon left? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what the issue.
Yeah.
But it was something where I was like, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now, so I'm just gonna put this little placeholder thing. But this does nothing.
So what does the text component do?
The text component is literally just a wrapper.
Yeah. I want to see that.
That also and it tells it basically if the text is in the wrong place, right? So let's
actually take a look at the implementation code. It's right there.
Well, this might be test. Oh no, that's wrong. Sorry.
So wait, that's text NB. That's weird. So that basic text must be from inside of React Native, right? Okay.
Yeah. So it's using all of these React stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And then this is the basic text.js, and I think it will complain if actually doesn't have any. Yeah. Okay. So color, font size, line height, family. And so like I'm a big fan of having night and dark themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like, I think it's just best practice if you have the time to just, and I think it will also encourage you as like a designer to or developer to like create your app in a way where like things are modularized, and like having a night and a dark theme to me is so important because like I don't focus really well on like super bright light screens, and so like I think what native base does is make it really easy and actually like has some opinions about like the way that you should just do your color scheme, and the way that like you should pass it around basically and you can pass it around on a component by component level, and just like with the web, you can override styles if you want, but it's probably best to keep almost all of your color and styling like in something like this that you can import. Cool. And yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, and awesome. I got my like this whole thing. Let's see if I actually have my server running. Okay, yeah, so in the meantime, I've also just got all the user authentication, so you can like log in with your. I was gonna ask. I don't know my base.
Do you want to share your Facebook information with everybody?
Yeah, I don't. But it'll log in. It'll show like your picture down here, and it'll actually populate all the stuff with your info. So I got that whole backend thing worked out, and I got all the tests written for it and passing. So like, and it's just Mongo. I'm not looking forward to deploying it because I heard that can be kind of tricky, but that's for the future.
Deploying the backend.
Yeah.
Well, should have done the backend and something awesome. Like Elixir Mix.
I know. Well, this is my first like serious like node project I did by myself, so I learned a lot. Now I'm like, it would be really nice if I had
Rails too.
Rails. No, that wasn't what I was thinking.
Rails is fine as well. Both of them are good.
Rails is fine, but I was thinking more like Elixir, something that I've actually been like reading about for the last like 4 or 5 months. But the problem is you need a project that needs a back end. You know what I mean? To actually do it. And so it's like, oh man, so I have to create like another project like that and actually do all this stuff in order to actually make it worth it. It's hard to find things.
I'm the inverse. Like I would like to mess with a native base, but I'm like, I don't really have an app in mind that I need a native app for. But I would love to do it just to see. But I don't know. I get triggered with JavaScript now.
I would love to do some React Native apps, but I kind of want to do offline first apps more, which get rid of a whole lot of the point of any native app.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I can see that. I would like more. I think the mobile web sucks.
I'm not saying like React Native sucks or anything. It's just like me personally, I have a bigger interest in offline first. And like once you really do all the offline first technology, there isn't a whole lot that native gives you that those don't.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You should do a presentation on implementing offline first stuff. I mean, like I've looked at it.
Yeah, I am, in theory, yes. I should.
You should.
Well, okay, so I think that does segue into kind of the other thing that we need to talk about, which is doing presentations and so on.
Yeah.
Could be because obviously we've been kind of having trouble catching up.
What's in today's talk, and then we'll.
Okay.
Thanks, Seth, for sharing. It was really awesome. I didn't know about Database. I would know about React Native. I think that's pretty cool.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really good to see.